Good evening. My name's Carole Groom, and on behalf of the Board of Supervisors and the Commission on the Status of Women, I'd like to welcome you to the 33rd Annual San Mateo County Women's Hall of Fame Awards presentation. Previously, we had planned to be at Skyline College in their new building that overlooks this beautiful city of Pacifica, but for the first time ever, we are having the Hall of Fame virtually because of the COVID pandemic. Additionally, I hope that everyone is watching this from home and that you are safe from the fires and feeling well. In hard times, we come together to help each other and persevere, one of the many reasons that many of our honorees have been selected. Throughout the history of the United States, women have fought to gain equality by multiple means, including obtaining the right to vote, stepping into jobs held primarily by men, and more recently, demanding our right to equal pay. While great strides have been made across this land, women are still not fully recognized or compensated for the work they do in the marketplace or in their communities. Here in San Mateo County, we strive to do better. We've certainly come a long way since 1984, when this event was the first of its kind ever to be held in California to honor women's achievements as trailblazers in their professions and their volunteer contributions to our community. Now it is one of many such events throughout California that recognize women's accomplishments in honor of Women's Equality Day. Since the creation of the Hall of Fame 36 years ago, 280 women have been inducted into its ranks. Each of these women has demonstrated leadership, creativity, perseverance, and a passion for making our community a better place. So on behalf of San Mateo County, we thank you for joining us on this live stream to support the newest inductees in the Women's Hall of Fame. First, let me recognize some important people who contributed to this year's induction. Every year, the field of nominees is truly outstanding, making the final selection a formidable task. A panel of judges from outside San Mateo County review the nomination forms without names, and they choose the finalists. Needless to say, it's a difficult task, but we would like to recognize this year's wonderful judges who are from San Francisco County. Eva Monroe, a trustee at the University of San Francisco and lifelong civic and nonprofit volunteer. Kisa Ocampo, a two-time Emmy Award-winning director, writer, and producer for television, currently working with ABS-CBN International. And lastly, Ruby Acosta Macarag, a social justice advocate, former teacher at the June Jordan School for Equity. So thank you to our judges who took a lot of time and a lot of thought and a lot of personal empathy in making these selections. The other person I want to thank is Dani Gasparini. She also a Women's Hall of Fame honoree from 2004, who has volunteered her time and expertise to interview this year's honorees, a new format we are trying for the virtual world. As an alum, Dani interviewed each honoree to learn what they care most about, what motivates them to serve this community tirelessly. Tonight, we will be honoring 4 amazing women: Judge Beth Labson Freeman, Belinda Hernandez-Arriaga, Celine Wen, and Sarah Pistorino. Our first honoree is Celine Wen, a young woman of excellence who is now a senior at Ariaga High School. She migrated from China in 2016 and almost immediately founded Women of the World Club. She is passionate about helping women, and the club collects donations and goods that go toward purchasing hygiene projects for homeless women in the Bay Area. Now I'm going to turn it over to Dani, who will introduce Cecile Wen.
Okay. Well, so I'm going to say hi to you, Celine, and congratulations for being the 2020 Young Women of Excellence honoree from the Commission on the Status of Women in San Mateo County.
Hi, Dani. Thank you so much. It's such an honor and such a humbling experience.
Well, it's humbling for me because I have now had the privilege of reading through your nomination papers uh, from Jackie. And I must say that I've read it a few times just to understand all that you've accomplished. I will say in high school, I was not thinking about the things that you've been doing and passionate about, let alone being a new immigrant to this country. So I congratulate you on your work.
Thank you so much.
I'd like to ask you, you've only been in this country for a couple of years now, and already thinking about giving back to this new community. What actually inspires you to not only keep a very tough school schedule, but play competitive sports and then care about women and your community?
Yeah, so actually, it started when I was back in China. I'm really glad that I have parents that educated me well, I would say. So starting from a young age, I actually worked with family friends who owned a autistic baking business. So I participated in several volunteer activities with them. So that's when I started doing community service and being aware of groups of people that needed help. So it started with baking with autistic children. And I carried that over to America, wanting to help more autistic people because I had the experience, and like I think it's just great that I can use what I'm passionate about, baking and art, and like continue helping people in America as well. And then another reason why I started Women of the World Club is because when I first immigrated to San Francisco, actually, the streets were like all tall buildings. It was fancy, but then when you turn around the corner, the alleys would have homeless people lying just like beside the concrete walls. I was really shocked, honestly, because in China, I've never seen such scene. But when I realized that there were also like women just lying next to each other, I realized how much danger they're in because of potential sexual harassment and other like hygiene problems. And because I'm a woman myself, so the first thing I thought of was menstruation for some reason. And I just thought if I struggle with menstruation, even as a privileged teenager, how unfair it is for other groups of people to not even have the like have access to daily necessities. Yeah.
Right. And I appreciate that you bring up personal hygiene with women or any gender, because it's something that in this country, for some reason, we tend to not talk about. We tend to not think about. We might think of physical appearance. We might think of coats and warm clothing, but we don't necessarily think about our body issues. And, you know, there's been several documentaries about women's menstruation cycles today. So I appreciate the fact that you're bringing up a topic that perhaps not only teens don't want to be talking about, but as adults, we're not very comfortable talking about it either. But it's very interesting, and I'd like to dig a little bit deeper, because here you are, just a teenager in high school, and you're already seeing the world from a different place. You do mention your privilege. You've got a background that values education, have the ability to educate you, obviously well, but saw an issue and wanted to jump in. I think there are so many young people who want to do the same as you, but maybe not know how to start. How did you start thinking about your volunteer and community service and what you wanted to try and tackle?
Yeah, so actually, I think it's really easy to start like a project yourself. For example, since I'm not an adult yet, I cannot create my own organization per se. But school clubs, you can easily create it. So what I did was I saw a phenomenon. I went online to research. So I watched a lot of videos about women and other genders with menstrual cycles. And I just talked to my parents, to my teachers around me, and they gave me ideas. So I was like, why not do it? And what I did was I asked my friends to support me and like be my club officers. And I established a club at school. And that's where I started gathering more people. And once you have more people, the impact just keeps on spreading. So honestly, if anyone wants to make an impact themselves, just it's more about seeing the issue and actually doing something about it, not just seeing it and be like, oh, I'm so sorry for them. So acting is actually really easy. Yeah.
Well, and I appreciate you saying that, because I think that I hope that a lot of young people and older adults will be watching this video and seeing you on screen and knowing that really we should stop stepping over the gap in the carpet, right? We should actually pause and look at the hole in the carpet and say, what can I do, large or small, to make a difference in closing that gap? And I appreciate the fact that you didn't feel like you had to solve it on your own. You encouraged others and inspired others to volunteer. We say it takes a village. And it sounds like you've been able to ask others to join you in this work.
Mm-hmm.
So
yeah.
Yeah.
Go ahead.
No, you go ahead.
So basically, yeah, I think it's really easy to ask others since it starts from friends and then it goes to their friends. And once we started really having activities such as passing out flyers, more people in our community knows, because we just walk up to anyone that we don't even know and just say, hi, we're from Aragon High School. We would like you to be aware of this issue. And they can donate to us, but they don't have to. But having that flyer and reading that information just spreads the awareness, and it definitely helps a lot more. And I feel like it could be, like you just said, there are a lot of things that anyone can do. It could be as small as like mentioning this issue to your family, or it could be as big as, let's say, voting this year to make a long-term change. So, yeah.
What could we do to support you and your community service? Can we donate to the work that you're doing?
Yeah, so I have, because of COVID-19, I have a online fundraiser on GoFundMe.com. You can go to GoFundMe.com/Celine Wen, and like all the information and past donation data will be presented on there, and anyone can donate from online. But for the past, we've just been doing like cash because it's easier. And I think another way that people can support us is by definitely like spreading this issue, and not just looking at homeless women actually, but seeing what's the main problem in their own community, in their own society, and trying to do something about it. Because I feel like this interview, it's not only trying to solve my problem or like homeless woman's problem, it's trying to spread awareness for more people that are underprivileged and how people should help them. Yeah.
Well, and I think you've also given us the structure on how to start. You've been a great advocate to me today to say, if I do want to affect, it might be homeless women, it might be the LGBTQ community, it might be Black Lives Matter, that I need to stop just thinking about it, and I actually need to get into action mode. And whether it's a small something by making a donation to the best of my extent, or maybe it's making a phone call, or maybe it's reposting a flyer on my Facebook page, you've just inspired me to say, I need to get involved. And that I think is a great message for everyone.
Thank you. Yeah.
I want to ask you, you mentioned it just quickly, because we all are thinking about COVID-19 at this moment. And I know I worry, for one, especially about our homeless populations and those that are vulnerable with regard to housing and shelter. How and we aren't allowed that high touch moment anymore, and to being physically present. How are you doing your work when we have to be socially distanced with our friends as well as the work that we're doing?
Yeah, so first of all, because during COVID-19, homeless people are more concentrated inside shelters, and like they're gathered inside in a shelter in place instead of more spread out on the streets. So I stopped actually going to the streets and interviewing them for everyone's health and safety. And instead, I used all the money I fundraised online to donate a lot of masks and other like medical products. I also, instead of meeting with my club members, we have school scheduled club times now. So we're definitely still meeting online and talking about how we can write more reports to let more people know about this issue online instead of like going somewhere. Also, I'm also teaching this class online that basically all the tuition for this class are going to medical like equipment, all the big hospitals in America that funds COVID-19 equipment, basically.
Celine, it's amazing. And what I want to do too is people that are watching us virtually at the night of the Women's Hall of Fame, there's going to be a link where people can actually go to your nomination paper and see what Jackie wrote about you, and get a little bit more of a detailed summary about your background and what you've done. I won't embarrass you and ask you to sing a song for us, but I understand that you love to sing, and maybe when we get to meet in person someday, you'll do me the honor of singing me one of your favorite songs. But we are going to say goodbye in our session, but I want to give you a couple of minutes to say anything that you wanted to say to our virtual audience and to other young women in San Mateo County, or everyone for that matter.
Yeah, so I would like to say to all the young women, and honestly everyone that's watching this through their monitor, that just because of COVID-19, the world kind of is on pause right now because we are not able to go out and make a huge impact in person. But it doesn't mean that you can't do anything online. There are a lot of donation sites and volunteering sites that allows young people, underprivileged young people, education opportunities. And there are also organizations like Women of the World Club that are gathering more funding. Yeah, they're gathering a lot of funding and trying to help a lot of people that maybe do not even have a shelter to be shelter in place right now. And I feel like for me personally, since I'm turning 18 and going to college soon, I would love to turn my school club into a nonprofit organization and actually have this legal company that's online. So in the future, I wish that more people can join me and raise more awareness for anyone who menstruates and anyone that's underprivileged. Yeah.
Well, thank you, Celine. We're going to be wrapping up our program, but I just want to say congratulations again. You are a young woman of excellence. I have a feeling we're going to see you in San Mateo County again, and you'll continue to do great work for your community. Thank you to your parents who've given you the inspiration and the ability to give back to your community. And thank you for wanting to be involved with San Mateo County and those that are underserved and those that need a little support from the rest of their community. So thank you so very much.
My, that was impressive. What an impressive young woman. Our next honoree is Judge Beth Labson Freeman, who is a judge on the federal court in the Northern District of California, appointed by President Obama in 2014. Prior to that, Judge Freeman was a Superior Court judge in San Mateo County from 2001 to 2014. She was also Deputy County Counsel in San Mateo County for many years, where she first became acquainted with the Commission on the Status of Women. Judge Freeman hears a broad array of cases, including antitrust rights, consumer class actions, and technology cases. Her interview will reveal her earliest motivations to serve her community and how she implements compassion in her work as a judge. Now we will meet Judge Freeman along with Dani Gasparini.
So good evening, Judge Beth Freeman. Very nice to virtually meet you. Congratulations on the 2020 Women's Hall of Fame honor.
Thank you. It's a pleasure for me, certainly.
We normally would be in a wonderful event space with a lot of our friends and family and community members in front of us. We find ourselves in a different time today, and now we're sort of virtually having this conversation, and we've invited guests to join the program via video, and we hope everyone's going to enjoy the conversation that you and I are about to have about this wonderful award. Judge Freeman, congratulations.
Thank you. Thank you. It's a real pleasure.
So I want everyone to sort of hear firsthand. The person that nominated you was Katie Bush. Hopefully I'm saying her name correctly.
Katie Bush.
Katie Bush.
Yeah.
She clerked for you for 1 year and obviously found it compelling enough. You made such an impact on her that she wanted to nominate you for this wonderful award. Tell us a little bit about the nomination when you heard about being nominated and actually winning for the Women's Hall of Fame.
Well, Katie served as a judicial law clerk for me last year. And with all my law clerks, they're young attorneys, generally a year or two out of law school, and we spend only a year together. And so I considered it a year for me to mentor my law clerks. I never imagined that one of my law clerks would actually want to put my name forward for this honor in San Mateo County. And so it's deeply moving to me and very meaningful that a law clerk of mine who I worked with so closely would feel that this was something she wished to do.
In this interview, we've got, just a few minutes to actually tell everyone tuning into view all about your amazing career and who you were in just a few minutes of time. But while we're talking about Katie's nomination of you, I'm going to read an actual sentence that she wrote in her nomination paper. In giving legal advice, Judge Freeman, later as a judge, she always remembered that the law has real world impacts on everyday people. That to me is a trait that not everyone will come out of school with. Can you speak a little bit about that?
I decided to become a lawyer because of my deep devotion to public service. And so it's really who I am and where I come from. I grew up in Belmont. I went to high school. I graduated from Ravenswood High School in East Palo Alto. And it was always my plan and goal to be deeply involved in our San Mateo County community. And so for me, I've used the law and I've used my judgeship to further the impact of the law on people's lives.
Well, and you just mentioned something that I think is worth pointing out. So back when we were first talking about desegregation of our high schools, and we wanted to integrate high school, so that it wasn't necessarily a community high school, that everyone was integrated. So you had folks from Belmont, in going to San Carlos or Woodside or Menlo Atherton. East Palo Alto was just starting their high schools later in the Sequoia Union High School District. You chose to not attend a high school. Carlemont would have been your high school closest to Belmont, to where you were living in Belmont. You chose to actually attend a school in East Palo Alto, which was sort of the reverse desegregation for youth living in Belmont.
That's exactly right. So the Sequoia District, which covers Belmont south to the county line at Palo Alto, chose to desegregate in the early 1970s. And they were unable to enact a required transfer program, and so it was completely voluntary. And so I, along with a number of my friends, volunteered to go to Ravenswood High School in East Palo Alto, and many students volunteered to come out of their community school in East Palo Alto and come up to Belmont or go to Woodside or any of the other schools. I was only there as a senior, and it changed my life. It really was the prelude to everything that followed.
Well, that would be my next question. What gave you the inspiration to, one, want to go to law school, two, run for office, venture into the political world, and then three, be a presiding judge?
Well, when I first decided to be a lawyer, it was because of my interest in a political career. And all of the politicians I admired were lawyers. And so that appeared to be the best path. There weren't many women lawyers at that time, and so it was a little bit of a climb. And really, it wasn't until after I finished law school that I realized I was interested in practicing law. I thought I would go right back into elected politics. But it was during that year at Ravenswood High School that I actually did run for office. I ran for the state assembly from the South San Mateo County District and was the Democratic nominee for state assembly when I was 18 years old, which coincided with the year 18-year-olds were given the right to vote. And so I delayed college for a semester and ran a campaign that, although I had the Democratic nomination, I did not win the election. And then I went on to college and to law school, and then came back to San Mateo County to pursue my interests. It didn't turn out to be a political career. Family and marriage and my interest in being a practicing lawyer changed my path. But I think everyone's path takes many changes along the way. And I found that my real interest was in public service, and I worked for the San Mateo County Council's office for 17 years, representing public school districts and community colleges and county agencies, handling county litigation, representing abused and neglected children in the juvenile court, until I was appointed to the bench in 2001.
So when you look back, thinking about your high school experience and when the decision-making process that you were thinking about law, probably in a time where there weren't a ton of women entering law school, and especially a ton of women being appointed to the bench. At that time, were you thinking about, hey, I'm going to be a trailblazer as a woman? Or are you thinking, I just am trying to be the best attorney, the best judge? What are some of the things that you want to pass on to young women as they think about these decisions? Are they trailblazers for other women? Are they leaders in their gender?
So I'd always thought of it more as leadership. And I recognized that there were obstacles, but I was by no means the first. Women entered Harvard Law School in 1953. That was well before my years there. Women were practicing law and serving on the bench long before I ever did. There were still obstacles, and so for me it was a matter of developing leadership skills, of having a clear view of who and what I wanted to be and pursuing them. And that's not to say that there weren't those obstacles, and many of them are still there. And we see them. If you read the newspaper, you know that women and people of color face obstacles every day. And so for me, it was about leadership and focus. And it's never that easy. That sounds like it's easy, but you get pushed back a lot. And I think I would always tell young women, you can't expect everything to be a success. but you can expect to get yourself back up and keep working at it.
So you've obviously accomplished a lot in your career, and I'm sure in the many decades to come. Was there anything that you could look back on and say, those are the resources that were either afforded to me or that I sought out or I had a mentor? What are those kinds of pivotal points that brought you to be where you are today in this Women's Hall of Fame award?
Well, first of all, I recognize that I had enormous privilege, and I have been able to take advantage of that. Not all women do. So I'm grateful for that and recognize that that requires more of me to lend a hand to the whole community. I also am in the community I grew up in, and that means a great deal to me. So winning an award like this, being recognized in San Mateo County is deeply meaningful to me because I've devoted so much of my life to San Mateo County. I always felt when I worked in the county counsel's office and served on the Superior Court that things really work well in San Mateo County. The government has always run well. The communities have been diverse and have their struggles, but I think have produced enormous leaders from all over our wonderful county.
Beth, I couldn't agree with you more. I think that we have such a special place here in San Mateo County. I think we have had decades of terrific County Board of Supervisors. I think that when we look on the Commission of Status of Women, I think when we look at our Youth Commission and we look at this now, this leadership conference that has been happening, we are so very proud to say that we're part of a great award and honoree system in San Mateo County. We just have a few minutes, but I want to give you an opportunity to say, what are the things that you want our viewers to know about Judge Freeman?
Well, I think that what I'd really like people to know about me is that I feel very fortunate to have had great recognition. But the reason that I have been able to achieve what I have is because I have been always willing to put myself out for people in our county, whether it was when I was a brand new graduate of law school and I would spend a night a month in a battered women's shelter to be the person to handle an emergency, or whether it was working at the San Mateo County Legal Aid Bureau while I was in law school. Public service has always been important to me. I've worked with high school organizations. I've worked in leadership organizations so that young people can develop the skills that will really set them on the right track. And I've been so fortunate to be a judge. The work has been so meaningful. It has put me in contact with our vast and broad community in San Mateo County. And now on the federal bench, it's really a national community that comes to our courts. I feel that the law is a great instrument. It can be abused or it can be used. And I think that I always hope that the law will be used to better communities and to better people and to support our Constitution. Those are challenges. And there's much about the law that has not protected people. But I certainly hope that the work that I've done has always held the higher standards. And, I love at this point in my career being able to mentor younger people. It's generally lawyers who I'm in contact with, and to see the brilliance develop and go, these men and women go forward in their careers.
It's clear when you read your nomination papers and sort of some of the summaries and bios. And again, I hope all of the viewers will take the time to click in and read much more about you. We could talk about your awards. We could talk about all of the amazing things that you've done from a public service and a community service. People describe you as fair and just and compassionate. We sometimes view the law as black and white. You either broke the law or you didn't. But you seem to find that compassion and something different in the law. How do you do that every day?
Well, I wish I knew what the formula was, but I will just tell you, just to give an example. I have presided over hundreds, if not thousands, of criminal law proceedings from arraignments to plea bargains to criminal trials and to sentencing. And in terms of in a criminal case, fairness is the most important thing at the trial. Every participant needs to be treated fairly, and the trial needs to be free of bias. It's a hard thing to do. A jury needs to be educated on what their job is. But once there is a conviction, and I have the responsibility for sentencing, then I need to look at the person. I need to look at our community. I need to decide what the criminal justice system can do to help this individual pay for the crime and to come out as a person who will have a meaningful life when that debt to society is repaid. And it's a heavy burden, and it's one that I, along with all other judges, take very seriously. But the compassion for others comes out, and recognizing that there is good in most people. And often people do make bad choices, and they have consequences to pay. But there's just something to look for to help someone to be able to have tools when they come out on the other end of the criminal justice system.
Well, there's a reason why people use words, again, like courage, kindness, respect, dedication, community service, when describing you and your career and the person that you are in our community in San Mateo County. So Judge Beth Freeman, I just want to say thank you and congratulations for being a 2020 Women's Hall of Fame honoree. You make all of us proud, and you make our community a better place to serve.
I think as a final word, I would really like to thank the Commission on the Status of Women. I actually had the great honor of working with the commission as a lawyer in its early days, and just have always admired the women who were nominated to be honored by the commission. And so it is with a special pride that I accept this award and acknowledge and the wonderful work that the commission has done for so many decades and will in the future. And I want a special thanks and shout out to Katie Bush, who nominated me. She's really a very special person and an emerging leader in San Mateo County. So stay tuned for her as well.
Well, thank you, Judge Freeman. Have a great night. Congratulations. And
Thank
hope
you.
Well, that was a wonderful interview. When Judge Freeman left San Mateo County to go to the federal bench, we were all deeply saddened and miss her a great deal. But serving on federal benches is a wonderful assignment for her as well. Our next honoree is Sarah Pistorino. She has just recently completed a term as one of our San Mateo County Youth Commissioners, and so I've had the great luxury of getting to know her and watch her grow. So I think you will enjoy her when you meet her. She's a remarkable young woman who not only led the commission, but is a founding member of the Safe Youth Advisory Board, an organization that provides resources to youth around mental health issues. So now let's greet Dani, who is going to interview Sarah Pistorini.
Hi, Sarah. It's Dani Gasparini. Good to see you.
You too.
Congratulations on the honor of the 2020 Young Women of Excellence from the San Mateo County Commission on the Status of Women. Congratulations.
Thank you so much.
We're going to spend a few minutes talking with each other because we want everyone to sort of find out who is Sarah Pistorino and all that you've accomplished in your young life. But I am going to say to everyone who is watching this program that we want to have them run over or jump into the Leadership Conference website and go to the Women's Hall of Fame link, because they can find a lot more about you and your actual nomination papers and your background, so that you and I can spend these several minutes talking about who you are and what you've accomplished in life so far and what brings you to this award of excellence. So I'm just going to give a few seconds of you're a senior at Sacred Heart Prep. Is that correct?
So I actually attended Sacred Heart from freshman year through junior year. For my senior year, I did concurrent enrollment at Lydian Academy and Foothill College. So that was this past year, and I graduated, and I'll be attending American University in Washington, D.C. This fall.
Well, we could probably spend the next 20 minutes talking about what it was like to learn virtually and online. Your senior year in high school, and then also now stepping into college. So we'll leave that for another conversation. But I want to talk about what inspired you to really want to jump in and to help your fellow youth in regard to mental health and wellness.
Yeah, definitely. Growing up, I personally experienced some challenges, um, and not knowing where to turn, not knowing where to seek help. It was such a stigmatized topic,
Mm.
that me and my family found it incredibly difficult to even know where to begin in terms of handling that. And as I was going through this journey of mental health, my personal mental health, I realized that there was a lot of other youth out there who were experiencing similar difficulties. But this lack of conversation was making it very difficult for all of us to, even though we were going through the same thing, to get help and to speak about it. So that really kind of kickstarted my mental health advocacy work. After my freshman year, I began working with Safe Space, which is a mental health nonprofit that's primarily run by youth. It's located in Menlo Park, and we have a site in San Mateo. And from there, I was really able to come together with other individuals in the community who had either had gone through similar things that I had, or had knew somebody, because honestly, we all of us in high school and middle school know somebody who's dealing with something like this. And it was really an inspiring environment for me, where there was no judgment, there was no stigma around this topic, and we could really have these open conversations about mental health, and talk about where to go from there, and how we can make uh, the services more accessible, how we can make the conversation more normalized amongst our peers, amongst our parents, amongst our teachers, and really opening those lines of communication around mental health.
Sarah, I want everyone to pick up two things about what you just said. I want them to hear the word safe space. It is a place that you helped co-found, and a place that I want everyone to jump on their website and learn more about it, because it is something that will continue to help young people for a very long time. And I congratulate and commend you for wanting to create that kind of resource. But let's go back for a minute. So your inspiration came from a place where you felt you needed help and support, and you and your family were realizing there's lack of resources. I think for those of us, even adults my age, might say, I'm struggling enough just with trying to find the resources out and to help myself, let alone now as a young teenager. You were not only dealing with mental health, trying to find resources, but then jumped in it far enough so now you've developed resources. We all might say to you, how did you find that balance? You had schoolwork, you were struggling with your own personal circumstances, and now you wanted to help others. How did you manage all of that?
Yeah, I mean, it was definitely a little bit difficult finding that balance. But I think I realized, having dealt with, my journey, and constantly dealing with my own journey with mental health, uh, that by sharing my story and sharing my experiences, I could make someone else's journey a little bit easier. And so, throughout my high school career, as I was dealing with this, my personal stuff, but also getting involved in the advocacy side of things, I really just tried to reflect on the experiences that I'd had and the difficulties that I'd faced. And I don't want a single other youth, in our county, in our state, nationally, to go through that same experience and not know where to turn like I did. And so by sharing my story, through Safe Space and the work I was doing there, speaking at different events and panels, I was hoping that I would be able to, make that a little bit easier for somebody else experiencing the same thing.
Right.
But it's definitely a journey, definitely a journey.
So let me ask you this. So again, at such a young age, you've accomplished so much, and it's so wonderful. And I can see why the commission has chosen you to add you to the young excellence honoree role. You are absolutely amazing. What kind of advice would you give to now your peer group who are going through high school, and whether it's mental illness, stress? I mean, there's so many gender identification. There's so many issues that young teens are faced today. What's your advice?
Yeah, I think my advice would be to speak up. I think so many of us live in fear of, embarrassment or judgment, or, you know, getting bullied at school, or being left out, or being singled out for being, the only person dealing with this. But I think, when you look around, most people in high school are going through something, whether it's, a family issue, whether it's a personal mental health journey, whether it's, something about, finding their own identity. Every single individual is going through something. And so if you're having a hard time, you're struggling, you're not sure what to do, there is never harm in speaking up. And I think, at least through my experience, the second that I, said, hey, like something's wrong, I need some help, was the second things started getting better for me. And I think, I've talked with a lot of people who have experienced mental health, and I think everyone would kind of agree that, it's constantly ongoing, but really reaching out is the best advice I could give anybody. There's no reason why any of us should have to go through this alone, especially given that there's so many of us who are struggling with different things. Finding that community of individuals who you can relate to can really be one of the best support systems.
And I think that's why we all love the idea about safe space, because it really does give you a platform for conversation that is safe, in a place where there is no judgment. And you're going to find folks that kind of mirror who you are. So it's wonderful that you brought that to your community. It's just such a great accomplishment. As I said before, the Young Excellence Award was incorporated into the Women's Hall of Fame in 1992. So there's been amazing young women brought into this honored space. You're about to head off to college. What's your next journey then? You've already accomplished so much. What are you thinking about next in your volunteer space, in your Women of Excellence space?
Ooh, good question. I'm not entirely sure. I'm excited to, well, I was supposed to be moving across the country, but we'll be remaining here and doing it virtually. But to figure out what that next chapter will be for me, I had so many wonderful opportunities through high school and the volunteering that I did. And I met so many wonderful adults who were willing to support me, and be wonderful mentors. And so, as I go into college, who knows what I'll do? But I'm really looking forward to all the opportunities that I know are out there. And when I do get to move to DC to attend American, I'm excited for all the opportunities that come with being located there. But just meeting new people, meeting new adults, widening my horizons a little bit. And I'm sure I'll find a way to get involved there as well.
Yeah, I have no doubt. Now we just have a few minutes left. Gina Koini was the individual who nominated you. And so what are some of the things that you'd either like to say to Gina or to anyone that has read your nomination papers, as I have? It's absolutely amazing.
Yeah, well, I worked with Gina throughout all of high school, my 4 years on the youth commission. She was our liaison from Supervisor Groom's office. And she was really a phenomenal mentor to me. She was there. We had many transitions on youth commission during the time that I was a member, but she was there to support us through all of them, which was really terrific. I think I was given a wonderful opportunity through Youth Commission, getting involved there. And when I joined, I applied in 8th grade. I didn't know who I was going to be or what I was going to be interested in, but I knew that I wanted to have a voice and speak up. And I didn't know at the time that Youth Commission would turn into this thing that I was so passionate about. And I think, reflecting on my 4 years there, serving as a commissioner and then vice chair and then chair this past year, I'm so grateful for the opportunity I had to speak up and have a voice in our county and really feel valued. I think it's really common for adults to kind of dismiss the ideas of young people or prescribe whatever they feel is right. But San Mateo County has done a really terrific job through Youth Commission of giving youth a voice and turning to us when they need it, when they're looking at youth related issues, and providing that wonderful leadership opportunity for all of us to develop as leaders and grow our passion for public service.
I want to also echo your thoughts on the Youth Commission and Carole Groom's involvement in not only the Commission on the Status of Women in that whole commission, but also too on the Youth Commission. Give us an idea of some of the topics and the conversations that you had around the Youth Commission. It might give us a little bit of understanding of kind of the issues that you were dealing with.
Yeah, I mean, Youth Commission has dealt with a lot of, legislative areas, internal transitions, all sorts of different things on the time that I serve. In our committees, we're broken down into different topic areas. So I've done a lot of different, letters of recommendation to the Board of Supervisors about different policies. We've done a ton of different projects. One of my favorite or I would say my biggest youth commission accomplishment, we had a social host ordinance passed in the county, I believe in 2019, I think, which came after 2 years. It was a youth commission kind of started idea, and we looked at all the counties nearby and what their policies were. A social host ordinance is a policy that puts in punishments for adults that host gatherings where there's underage substance abuse. So, we were looking at the other counties and what their policies are, and we took the lead from Marin County with the policy they had there, and were able to write that and get that passed by the Board of Supervisors. So it's kind of, things, legislative work like that, all the way, every year they do an immigrant youth scholarship that's really terrific. Giving money to immigrant youth in our county to support a higher education. We're doing that type of project. We wrote a letter of recommendation about getting Indigenous Peoples Day added to the county calendar, all sorts of things like that. But really from Youth Commission, I was given a lot of other opportunities as well to get more involved in San Mateo County. So, I was asked to serve on the Charter Review Committee in 2018, which was a terrific opportunity. And I'm so grateful that I was asked to do that. I learned so much. But, I think opportunities like that where, you might be the only youth in the room can be very intimidating. But I look back and I'm like, wow, I wouldn't be the person I am today or know all the things I know today without experiences like that.
Yeah. And again, thank you to San Mateo County for having a youth commission and so many of the more important commissions that we have. So, Sarah, we just have a few minutes left. So I want to give you an opportunity to say anything that you want to say that we want to make sure is included in this interview, because and then I will go back also and do a little bit more of your background so that people understand a little bit more of your background as well. But we'll give you the last couple of minutes.
Yeah, I mean, I think I'd just like to say thank you so much to Gina Koini for the nomination for this award. It really means a lot. And I'm, through my experiences with San Mateo County, it couldn't have ended on a better note. I'd also like to thank Supervisor Groom and her entire office for all the support they lended to me and Youth Commission over my past 4 years. A little shout out to the kids, other kids at Safe Space, and the past and current managing director, so Leslie Martin and Annie Kim. They have been phenomenal mentors through me throughout high school, and have really created an environment there where we all feel safe and heard and supported. And it's really unlike anything else. Yeah, I don't know what else. I think I'd like also to Tanya and the Commission on the Status of Women for, providing a forum like this to look at the women in our county who are doing, truly phenomenal work. I'm so honored to be, considered as a part of this group. I look at the other recipients for this year and I'm like, wow, that's crazy. So I think, I thank them so much for having this um, space in general. And, with the leadership conference as well, the work that they're doing there is so important. So disappointing it had to be canceled in person because of COVID, but they're making the best. So yeah, I think that's it.
Well, Sarah, I just want to say thank you and congratulations. You are obviously an amazing honoree and awardee. You make all of us proud in San Mateo County and beyond. We wish you the best of luck in your freshman year in college. Please do not make it the last time we see you. I know you'll come back. And who knows, maybe you'll be running for office one day. It sounds like you're very interested in policy.
Yes, thank you so much for having me.
Well, she's a remarkable young woman, and I think there will be great things coming from her, and we will see a lot of her. Our fourth honoree tonight is Belinda Hernandez-Arriaga. She's an assistant professor at the University of San Francisco and is the founder and chief executive director of ALAS, A-L-A-S, a Latino cultural arts, education, and social justice program working with rural youth and families on the coast side. She's been working nonstop since the fires in Pescadero, and we are grateful to have some of her time this evening. So here again is Dani to have a wonderful conversation with Belinda Hernandez-Arriaga.
All right. Hi, everyone. I'm now joined by Dr. Belinda Hernandez-Arriaga. Dr. Arriaga, welcome and congratulations to the 2020 Women's Hall of Fame, an honor well deserved.
Thank you so much. It's just amazing to be here to talk with you today, and a true honor to receive this award on behalf of the county.
Well, we should tell our viewers and the audience listening tonight and on video that you and I have had to reschedule this interview a couple of times because of what's been happening in our community, not only through COVID, but also the recent fires that have hit our coastside communities, which I think is, in a way, it's so very tragic that we're dealing with two very they just hit our hearts with the community and the pandemic and these fires, but it's also a great illustration of the work that you do in the community and the reason why you're being honored here tonight and inducted into the Women's Hall of Fame in 2020. So can you just give us a little bit of an example of what you've been doing with this pandemic and helping our communities and also with the recent fires?
Thank you, Dani. Sure. I think you said it best, that it's just been a really difficult time that has hit our hearts and is also really hit so many that have been going through just a lot of challenges and difficult times through COVID and now with the fires. And so our efforts with the program of ALAS, with the work that I'm doing, is to really be on the ground, be visible. Our program, we kind of have this little slogan of hearts and miracles, and to extend ourselves to the community in whatever way is needed, how we can support one another, how we can be there, how we can welcome them, and really carry and walk alongside each other during this very difficult time of both the pandemic and now, of course, the fires, and wondering what that's going to bring tomorrow.
Yeah, and you mentioned very early on, ALAS, the Ayudando Latinos a Sonar. I'm hoping that I gave that its proper pronunciation, but you're dealing a lot with sort of vulnerable communities that in mental health. You're also doing some cultural arts. You're also doing in helping with community need. Can you explain a little bit more about this organization that you helped to found and what you're actually doing today?
Yeah, so our program of ALAS, which I founded back in 2011, and then we became a formal nonprofit in 2013, has really existed to be there to wrap our arms and hearts again around the Latino community, mainly the immigrant community and farm worker community here of the North Coast. And it's been a beautiful project that isn't just about me, but really all the different team members, volunteers, our board of directors, and so our city of Half Moon Bay, county officials, and everyone that has come together to say, hey, we want to work alongside you to make a difference. We have free mental health services, Spanish, bilingual, bicultural. We have a really robust arts program that has mariachi, ballet folklorico, drumming, and now we're going to be working on visual arts to really celebrate and amplify the voices of our Latino families and children, to promote the idea of community leadership and culture and the wealth that we carry. We are also really excited that in the past year we have grown our work into the farms. Obviously, a lot of that in the recent time was pushed by the loss of jobs through one of our biggest closures, a Bay City nursery back in the fall, which really necessitated that we get out there and help those that had lost their jobs, some that have been there for 30 plus years and who are agricultural workers. And now we find ourselves in COVID, and going to the farms has been really important. So that farm worker program has also grown our social services outreach. We have an immigration connection to University of San Francisco, and they come out and do on-site work here. And overall now doing also outreach to newcomers. And finally, community leadership and community celebration is another part of our work, and community engagement. So I think we wrap around a lot in under the wings of Alas.
And this didn't just start for you in 2010, correct? I mean, you have taken several trips to the border into Texas to help families who've been separated. So tell us a little bit about your work that started then, and what inspired you to then start a program like Alas?
Well, the work that I started with Alas actually started out of my own counseling practice here that I was doing pro bono, to just say, hey, I want to be here to listen, to engage in the community. I actually worked for County of San Mateo for mental health, and I loved it and was so invested in that. But growing my family here and being here and seeing the needs, I decided to do a little bit of part-time support to be out here in the community outreaching and listening. And it was really during this time that I understood the bigger needs of the community, to say, how do we start to advocate? How do we start to celebrate, the very rich leadership and culture? And how do we start to connect missing pieces of families feeling silenced to having empowerment through the development of Alas? And so that is really the work that we have been doing, and then increasing different programs, and of course the counseling now, and the arts and the farm worker piece. But over time, I had an amazing opportunity with Cheryl Young and Lily Ray, and also our representative Jackie Spear, who organized the first delegation of women to go out in 2018 to see what was happening with the very difficult images that we saw of the separation of children and families, very heartbreaking. And after they returned, they all committed, this amazing group of women, to say, hey, we want to do more. And I was very lucky to be invited to be a part of their work. And I've always been working in immigration. I've always been working in Latino mental health and trauma, and working in areas of counseling and with displaced families and migration. So it was a natural fit to the work that I was doing as a professor as well at University of San Francisco. I teach in the counseling psychology program. So I was able to bridge two worlds of having the academic and opportunity to work with students, and go to the border with the group of Bay Area Border Relief that was founded by this team of women. And now for the past 2 going on 3 years, we've been going out to the border every 3 months and working with the families there and the children, seeing the heartbreak of the separation, and now seeing the children living in very difficult conditions under MPP, where they're forced to live in tents in the Mexico side while they wait for asylum, and just seeing the decay of humanity in terms of how they're living. So being able to talk to them every day, being able to be in community with them from here over there, being able to rally resources and supplies has been just beyond a blessing, because they don't feel alone, knowing that all of us from the Bay Area that are doing this work, and we represent so many that have joined in with donations and cheering them on from here, they know that we're there for them. So it's pretty amazing what we're doing from here to there.
Well, and let's touch on that a minute. What is the call to action? Let's use this platform here tonight to say, what can we do to support the work you're doing and this amazing women's group as well? What's our call to action?
Gosh, I think our call to action is, first of all, is just to really listen to one another, right? In terms of what's happening, who are the voices that we need to hear, and who are those that are really hidden in the shadows that need, our support to advocate and to amplify what's happening. I would say that there's 3 different areas. For the border and for the children of MPP is one, I think it's so important to not forget that this is still happening, to know that we have, as of July, had families that have been there 1 year living in tents with mosquitoes, with rats, with snakes, and with some of the most difficult conditions, and they can't go home because they are in danger to go home. And the stories that we've been able to hear over and over, and to see them for a year and to journey with them. So it's to not forget that, and to please remember the impact that you can have by talking to your representatives, by advocating on social media, supporting our Bay Area Border Relief team. If you look at the website Bay Area Border Relief, it's a local org here. There's a team of, I don't know how many of us now, and we're working every day to see what other resources we can get them. We're helping with water, we're engaging to get them tents, we're supporting them, through our phone calls and advocacy work, and so much more. The list goes on with the support that donors give. The other area that I would say is so important that we need to really just be grateful for and support in all ways are our farm workers right now during COVID. Even for me, living on the coast side, living in Half Moon Bay all these years, I always valued, our farm workers for sure. And we would always see the children in different ways through our program, through the schools, or, the parents would be coming to some of the activities. But I do have to say that COVID uncovered another layer of being able to go into the farms, because we couldn't stop and just say we can't go in. They needed us, and we needed to take protection. Our Mothers of Alas made 8,000 masks for protection right when COVID started. They started making masks. We had a wonderful seed grant from Philanthropic Ventures Foundation. Silicon Valley Foundation helped us, Stanford University. So many people were coming to say, how can we help the farm workers? And that made a significant difference. City of Half Moon Bay supporting us. And but we went into the fields and are going into the fields, and we're doing Farm Worker Fridays and our pop-up food pantry, and seeing everything up close really helps you to understand that this community really needs to be appreciated for getting food to our table, the very food that you and I depend on, and that they're working so hard with so much respect for the food that they're growing for us, and with so much care. When we talk to them, when they're doing this work, they're doing it with pride for all of us. Literally, like, it's an act of love. This farming is an act of love. And I think we need to continue to push for better wages for them, getting services for them, like Alice has been able to do because of generous supporters, and to really just say thank you, right? In ways that we can through actions. And then finally, now that we think about the fires, what's going to happen to those that have lost their crops or lost opportunity of to where they work or homes, to really find out how can we be there to make a difference. Every act that each of you that are listening does to contribute in any way, whether through a smile, whether through encouragement, whether through activism or engagement or donorship, it just comes together to make a beautiful county working together on behalf of the most vulnerable. And I think that's what I would say is our message.
And I think through the pandemic, through these kinds of natural disasters, through these community crises, rises the phoenix. I see more and more reports coming out of not only North Coast side, but the work that you're doing. I've been monitoring your social media, and it's amazing to see the partnerships that are being formed, and also the partnerships that you continue to collaborate with Puentes and other organizations out on the coast side. And there are good things that do come out of these crisis moments, and I just congratulate you. And if just me as this one person who's on the other side of my laptop screen, if I can say my thanks to you, and to the work that your organization does, and to all of the farm workers and our Latinx community, making our San Mateo County so rich and so vibrant, with who they are and their families. I want to say thank you to you, and thank you for reminding us that while we are all very busy in our own lives and trying to, have our kids learn online, and we all have to remember the voices of our entire community, and we have to remember everyone that makes up this rich San Mateo County. So thank you for reminding me that we do have to listen, and we do have to know the stories, and sometimes they're hard to hear, but we must continue to talk, and we must continue to communicate. I want to give you a few minutes to sort of wrap up our interview and be able to tell everyone a little bit more about who you are, your family, and what we can do to support you. It's such a great honor. Congratulations to the Women's Hall of Fame in 2020.
Thank you, Dani. Well, I have to say that I never imagined, to be the recipient of the Hall of Fame. Tanya came and brought the beautiful award, and she said, Belinda, you might want to show it. But I do want to say, I am a mom of three. My father was a great teacher of mine. He always taught me principles of, being there for one another, my faith. I remember as a young girl, he took me to the movies to see Gandhi, and I learned about all of these amazing people like Sister Teresa, and people just giving back to the world. And I would look at them and say, that's our call in life, is to be there for one another. And my dad taught me that. He passed away 20 years ago, and I carry him with me every day. And my mom lives with me, and she's always cheering me on, along with my husband and my three daughters. But I do want to say that this award and this recognition really goes way beyond me. I feel like I have an army of angels that I work with every day, in the team of Alas that works alongside me in my community. The very families that we serve are the same families that are always giving back to volunteer, to work alongside us. Today, we got this big donation of fruit and diapers and veggies came in for the families. And it was just a lot of boxes. And I thought, oh my gosh, I happened to be at a meeting online when they started coming in. And in like 10 minutes, we had mothers coming from our program to sort it out, to pack it for evacuees in a hotel that we're supporting during this time. And it's amazing. I look around and I see folks like yourself, but those of the Bay Area border team, the folks in the county, our city of Half Bay leaders, and everyone's always ready to chip in, to say, we're here. And it's really an act of love, what I've seen. Alas has grown into this, space that it's created by everybody. And while I am, I guess our board of directors, and all of us that are doing this, it's really important that today I take time to say thank you to my mentors, those that have always been there alongside me from the beginning of my journey in grad school, till now, my family, but also all of those that are there every day to make the work of Alas happen and to make this work possible to give back to our community. And finally, I will close by saying I'm not originally from California. I'm originally from Texas. And so I think some days I wake up and say, we really live in the best county in all of California and in all of the United States. And I can say that because I get to see the amazing acts of kindness that happen every day, even in the midst of crisis that we're going through, even when people are really emotionally and personally being challenged. People are rising up every day to say, how can we help? How can we make a difference? And how can we be there? And so I personally today want to say, thank you, San Mateo County, for all you're doing to see our communities, to see them visible, to hear the children's cries at the border, and to be there to hold hands during some of the most difficult times that we've gone through. Thank you.
Dr. Belinda Hernandez-Arriaga, you are our angel. You have the wings to wrap around our community, and you are a woman of excellence. Congratulations on this honor. It is so well deserved, and we are so lucky that we have you and your 3 daughters to soon be, in their own rights, women of excellence as well. Thank you so very much, and congratulations.
Thank you, Dani. Thank you so much for this special time with you. And I wish you all the best and everyone out there.
Well, we met another great leader. We've met 4 great leaders tonight. And we want to thank all of you and our honorees for being so willing to adjust your schedule and do this virtually instead of in person with a kind of a larger celebration. I hope that when we've come to an end of this pandemic and other things, that we can gather this group together again and have some sort of little reception so that we can celebrate you all in person. Before we leave, I want to thank the Board of Supervisors, my colleagues on the Board of Supervisors, Warren Slocum, Don Horsley, David Canepa, and Dave Pine, for their continued support of the Women's Hall, the Women's Commission, and the Women's Hall of Fame. I want to thank Tanya Beat, who is the director of the Women's Commission. I would like to thank Judith Tomlisoff, who works in my office and spends a great deal of time working on our commissions and helping to get a lot of work done. And I want to just once again thank you for joining us tonight. And I hope meeting these 4 women have inspired you to kind of think about, is there anything else you can be doing? Any other organization you can join? Any other group that you can help? And continue to make San Mateo County the very best place to live, work, and raise a family. So thanks for joining us, and good evening.